We have Thomas Pacheko, another automation genius and marketer, somebody I highly respect in the field. Does a lot of automations with everything from sales crazy dashboards, things that I haven't seen, and solves the mystery of mathematics, all to inside of Highlevel. He's built out probably one of the few only other individuals that I know of that has created some pretty massive automations for some pretty big marketers out there. And I think another best kept secret out in the world, maybe not after today, now, because it's only our moms watching, so fair warning. So
yeah, Mom, make sure
they're very supportive wives.
Make sure you tell your mom. Tell your family members.
Wait, how do I want to share this on my Facebook. Can I do that while it's live?
Absolutely. Well, we're live now, so I know it's sharing on our
Facebook. I can add your destination. Oh no, you can add a destination in the top right hand corner. It says add destination. Do you see that up top? If you see the little plus, it says a +4. See,
you guys must have some like admin panel or something. I don't see any.
We do, but that's all right. You can just reshare it later on. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine.
But kind of, we've just been really kind of like getting a lot, very involved in everything that's kind of going on in the marketing world. It's been kind of wild. Actually, big release day. I don't know if you guys caught on, but today proposals and estimates got out on Highlevel. I know, Andy, that's like a big relief.
Have you guys played around with that at all? Because I actually am onboarding a new SaaS client next week. And, this is the one I was telling you about, right? And dude, like as I'm going through mapping out his current process, he's using like 4 or 5 different softwares. I got this whole Miro board, all this stuff going, like sticky notes here and workflows going. And I'm doing this all in the background while I'm talking to him. And then at the end of the call, I shared my screen and showed it to him. His eyes went like this. Because as we're going through it, he's just like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we got to add this checklist here. Oh, we got to create this form in this process. And this guy does this and that thing. Like, there's probably a better way that we can streamline this entire process, isn't there? I'm like, yeah, I just need to digest all this and redo it how I would do it in Highlevel. But one of the things is he uses I think it's called Paint Scout to do all his proposals. So I'm wondering if that's something that we can bring into Highlevel.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll tell you right off the bat, though, we were looking at the proposals and estimate feature that just literally rolled out today for anybody watching. Yeah. Now it's good. It's not bad. The only you have to customize it and you can add all the items. I don't know, but Andy and I, one of our biggest pain points because we are so bad at it. Like we have a few things automated, but every contract is usually pretty. It's very different because we take a lot of custom builds, as you know. So it's just a massive pain in the butt, and then we have to follow up and everything else. But I will tell you that with this one, you can customize. It can be in the system. The only thing I don't know is I don't believe it tracks. Like you can't automate it to send out. Like you have to manually create it and then send out. And I think you can duplicate it once one is created and then kind of modify a few things.
Yeah.
But it will only send out, and it doesn't have an automation saying, hey, it's been signed or whatever else. The one other cool feature is that it does have, which the forms, remember everybody tried to do these makeshift forms where they thought that the signature was going to really matter. Yeah, not legal.
Yeah, no.
But now they have a digital certificate for anything you sign.
Awesome.
So it's attached on there. So I thought it was pretty cool. Like I think it's
well, I mean, like everything else, when they come up with a new feature, there's always a laundry list of, oh, I wish it coulda, shoulda, type of thing. And just give it a few weeks, give it a couple of months, and they'll have everything on there.
Yeah, I mean, and we did. It was funny because I think we were actually like going into the really meat of the conversation, a little controversial, I guess maybe, but where we just want to bash really bad software. So I went and did a cost comparison around all the all-in-one softwares, right? So I did Entreport, I did Kajabi, I did Keep, I did HubSpot. What was the other one? Contra, and all of them. So at the minimal base plan, and we're not even including the ones that people have created that have very specific niche automations. You know what I'm saying? Like we're big fans of FG funnels for course creators and digital course creators and any kind of coaches and supervisors. Yeah. And I can tell you that supervisors, coaches and I don't know where it came from and all that. But they have so much added value because of all the templates that they have. They're very specific for that, the workflows, all that stuff for them.
Yeah.
And even at like a 150 value, the amount you pay per domains and users, because that's what all of the other ones are charging for.
About $150.
They start off at like 150, 100 and like 97 or 97, right?
Yeah.
But what they don't read on the fine print with these all-in-one softwares is they charge you after per domain, and then they also charge you per user, and also some per members and some per contacts.
Yeah, and product.
and email volume too.
And email volume. So by the time you're done, I did like kind of a very cross reference. Like some of our clients that we service, our average client would have to pay north of like $400 a month just for the bare minimum of what we get here inside of like other high level variations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absurd. And I mean, look, I mean, out of all the softwares, they're all pretty decent. They all have their real big kind of like things that they're pretty key on.
Yeah.
HubSpot is probably the only one that is like a monster. It is like, it can probably tap into an asset if we let it, and it's got a lot of features. But I know people that are running that thing is like north of $30,000 a month.
Yeah, I heard it starts at like $1,500 a month or something.
Well,
no, it actually starts free, I think.
We have a flight school as a client. We have a flight school as a client that was spending north of $8,000 a month, and then they bought their own Highlevel, and they got all the bells and whistles, and they still feel like they're saving money. They got the ADA compliance, they got the HIPAA, and they're a flight school, and they don't even need the HIPAA.
Yeah,
all because it's so much less expensive.
Speaking of pricing and stuff, I was just made aware one of our clients. They were like originally with ClickFunnels and Active Campaign. Then they went from ClickFunnels to another software, but their Active Campaign is close to like $3 or $4 a month for the volume of emails they're sending out. But then they look into, I mean, they've got hundreds of thousands of contacts in there, and already like all these automations and stuff. They want to bring all that into Highlevel. That's going to be a nightmare to bring in.
Well, we can tell you from experience. We have a couple clients that are doing like about, I say, 2.4 million emails a month, a quarter, and they have about anywhere from 60 to 100K contacts that we have to do. Now, anybody that's watching, if you have big, massive lists, there is a full warm-up sequence that needs to happen prior to doing that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, it is not for the lighthearted. That warm-up process for a size that big can take anywhere from like 3 to 6 months. So because even if you're doing, I think the recommended is Mailgun is 20% every other, like every day, right? So you start at 300, then you add 20%, and then you keep on going. That's just to warm up. And I know like our coach Kristen, who teaches email, she's who's doing email to inbox.
Yeah.
She says that she's been able to pull it where you're doing half every day, but even at 100,000 and you're doing half a day, that's going to take you a couple of days. And then that's also not measuring the amount of unsubscribes you're going to get. And also there's just so much involved to it. I mean, that is a serious project. That in itself would be.
What's your experience with those email warm-up services where it's like you plug them into Mailgun, then they'll send out an email to all these random emails accounts that they have access to, and a live person will open up those emails, push it to the inbox, to the primary folder, reply back, and all that stuff. Have you guys used any of that stuff before?
We do. We have a pocket one that we used. That I actually don't want to say anything because it's like our secret sauce. But the only reason is like sometimes we get people that have really damaged like domains. I mean, one of our really good friends and a good partner of ours, ended up getting some third-party vendor from like God knows where, promised them, hey, I can get you 100,000 leads, and we're going to shove them all into your system in Highlevel, and we're going to get you all these leads and everything else. And not only, and he had on that account, he had his main domain for his business that he's had for 20 years.
Blacklisted.
They literally, I think they tried to send close to like 10,000 emails in one day. And in one day, literally burned their domain, and they tried it 2 other days after that. He got blacklisted from Google. Like literally, you cannot find him in Google. Like we tried searching, and when we went in, it literally said Google has like officially like blacklisted you. You have to blah blah blah, do all these things.
Yeah.
It took us 3 months to recover his domain, like a domain that's been in business for 20 something odd years, and all his Mailgun. They kicked him out of Mailgun. It was like it was crazy.
That's scary, man. You gotta be careful when you're dealing with stuff like that, especially with someone who's got a domain that old.
Well, it's not even that. People realize they buy these lists off the internet and they think they can use any system to do that. There is cold emailing software.
Right, and it's not high level, guys. Don't use
And
high
it's
level
not
for
high
cold
level.
email.
It's
And
not
you will see
Mailgun.
You need a
you will
burner,
see people in the
burner
group
email.
like, oh, we got a system or a setup or a snapshot to do cold email. Just don't even do it, please.
Yeah, I mean, from our email, it's been really bad, and I'm telling you right now, you don't ever want to do anything with it. If ever in a system, there are certain systems like New Reply. You have GMass that you can do with like a whole Google software setup. But again, there's a finesse to it. There's a way to do it. There's instantly. Right. But going back to your question, yes. So some of them are really good warm-up services. They will only warm up until up to like 5,000 to 10,000 emails. And everybody understands, right? When you send out what it doesn't want to do is it doesn't want you to send this mass thing out if you didn't send any emails before. So if today I came into the world of internet emailing, and I've never been known before, and I decided to send 10,000 emails to people that I thought I knew or a list that I bought, doesn't matter what software you use, whether it's ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, even all these things, you're going to get immediately burned out and it's not going to go out. There is a way to do it where you can warm up an email address, do it the right way, and you got to make sure that they're valid emails. You can run it through a scrubber, but even then, if I was to buy a list somewhere, which is to say you can, I would then in turn go and grab that instead. So that's something that is super important as we want to do that. But it's very, very important that everybody understands that. You got to be really careful with the services you buy online. Buying email lists is it can be done well, but you don't want to do that. Go ahead.
Hey, question for you guys.
That's just as fun as like cold calling.
How much have you seen people paying with services like Mailgun and so forth? Because that, what is the most that you guys have seen someone paying for a service like Mailgun for some of these larger companies?
I don't know. I don't have anyone that's sending a whole lot through Mailgun personally.
So about 120. That 2.4 million, $120 a month.
Yeah, I think my account. I only got a couple of. I don't have a whole lot of SaaS clients. Just a handful. But I have one who does a decent amount of volume. And I think my account's only hits like $80 a month or something like that.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, but
that's nothing in comparison to these other platforms like
ActiveCampaign charges close to like you said like about $3,000 to $4,000. We know customers that have maybe a list of 60,000 and they're probably doing about a million emails a month and they're paying close to 46,000 in any given month. This is send emails out a month. That is significant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's about this client I'm thinking of. I think their contact list is about around 270,000 or so, and I would say they're sending, north of 1 million emails a month for sure.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, but just think about it. This is exactly what you want to try to avoid. So whenever you guys are just going out there, but again, going back to what I was originally saying is the cost of other softwares in comparison to what the value that you can get in here, plus all the stuff you get. You got the membership area, you got a calendar, you have funnels, you have websites, you now have proposals and estimates. We're going to get the community feature, which apparently there was an update also on here about that.
Has that come out yet? The community feature?
Yeah, we were playing around with it. I wasn't like super impressed yet. I don't know. They did some update today, so I'm hoping that it did fix some of the things. I know we broke it a couple times, like we're trying it out. So I don't know yet. I'm still like, I kind of want to go in there and want to watch the whole entire estimates and everything else. I started playing around with it. I'm going to play around with it a little bit later on.
With the amount of go ahead. I was gonna say with the amount of updates that Highlevel puts out all the time, it's like you need to hire a full-time employee just to keep you up to date on what's going on, debrief you once a week.
Employed. Like they can keep rolling out all the different plans that they want.
Insane.
It's gonna definitely keep me employed for a while. That's for sure.
And I'll tell you, you mentioned like all these different platforms and stuff. And before we went live, I was telling you, I've got this one client right now. They're using Kajabi, and they're launching a new funnel. They wanted me to create a funnel for them. And dude, it took me an hour to figure out how to move a video from the bottom of the page to the top. No word of a lie. It's not like duplicate video and then drag and drop it up there. Nope, can't do that. and there's no media library. So if you have the video, like how in Highlevel you can upload videos, you can search for it, whatever. The only media library they have are recent uploads
Really?
So by the time, like from the time that you originally uploaded that video, if somebody else on your account or yourself uploaded a bunch of like 20 other videos, that 21st video, you can't find it. You have to like find it on the page, download it, and then re-upload it again. Oh my God.
Making all the people on the complaining. I mean, it reminds me a little bit like ClickFunnels when we first got into it. ClickFunnels was so much easier though. Didn't you remember that, Andy? Like when we were going from WordPress to ClickFunnels, it was like,
well,
I thought it was like
for a developer like me that does mainly like funnel design and web design and layout and stuff like that, it was very difficult to adjust because by habit, I want to do things that are very nice, very technical. And even in any of these page builder, there's the unlearning curve about how to clone things and make it easier to use. And there are things that I don't particularly like about Highlevel, like this new builder that Highlevel.
Funnel builder. What's your thoughts?
Not everything is perfect with Highlevel. The new funnel builder is terrible. I'm trying to build with it, and I got to be honest with you. Every time I'm in an account, I flip it back to the old one, and listen, hey, I've built some pretty incredible things. I use Divi, I use all these different softwares to do art, and Figma, all that stuff. What it does is it brings in the components of the elements, the settings, and covers what you're working
on the right hand side
and on the left.
On the left.
I did notice like some of the menus like overlapping and stuff. You can,
it's annoying as hell because there are times when you're doing one on one side, and then on the other side, you're doing all the SEO, you're doing the title, you're doing the code inside the header or the footer, and you can't see your design at all.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. Oh, listen, I love Highlevel, but not everything's perfect. And that's one.
Yeah, see, I don't mind it. I guess I adapt quicker, so I'm like, it's okay.
It's not about adapting. It's about wanting to see your full design as you're building out, because there's a lot of times that when you're building something, the thing that you're working on when you're working in a box is on the right-hand side, and now that's being covered, the thing that you're trying to adjust.
Oh, yeah.
So,
did you see the that loom that Sean posted with the new workflow builder UI?
Well, it's going to allow you to drag and drop. So I want to know.
That looks cool.
Well,
you can select a bunch of things, copy them, move them over.
Well, here's the funny thing is like I don't know.
You're laughing because you're like, Tom, that's right up your alley. You like to make a million steps.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. I'm like, Tom likes to overcomplicate. You know how like my audience used to they're very like one way. Tom writes like 40 paragraphs. They're like, 40 different options.
Getting away from that, because the more you do it, the more you realize things break, right? And a lot of what I do every single day is troubleshooting when you have an error or what have you, and how do you streamline it and make it better, not just for like error handling, but also for future growth too, right? So if you have like way too many things going on in one automation, and then 6 months down the road the client wants to change something, it's going to be crazy amount of effort to change this 100-step workflow versus having that maybe in 5 different workflows and only having to change one of the 5 versus going in and trying to figure out, oh, if I mess this one up, it's going to screw everything up below it.
Well, and that's my concern for a lot of the people that are out there. A lot of the things we end up picking up is fixing exactly that. I laugh a little bit because like we learn by troubleshooting. And I think it's funny. You and me, Tom, are like the old people in the group and like that Highlevel group, or like we're in there and people are like, this is awesome. Like, no, it's not. It's not like a giant sheet. Like, they show off these like massive, like 4-page long automations. And it is such a bad idea. Again, just from sheer experience and the amount of setups that we do. I mean, it was funny. Andy and I were actually trying to calculate how many hours we're actually in this actual software. And probably for the last 3 years, you got to think about it, just on the coaching alone, we're coaching about maybe 30 hours a week combined. And then another maybe 20 to 30 hours just to working on projects and everything else. So if you really multiply that like 60 to 70 hours times probably like 3 years,
I would say we're doing far more than 60. I think we're doing far more than 60 hour. If you really think about it, far more, because we're working weekends, we're working at nights, and we're in the software constantly. And then we times it by 2. It's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours, man.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from experience and cleaning up half the stuff that we have to when we pick up jobs. So we're kind of the cleanup guys. A lot of the projects we get are just really messed up, like things. And sometimes it's not the person who built it. It's not even the customer's fault, to your point. Like something changed, breaks everything, customers like kind of outlive the automation. They're no longer doing that one thing.
Right.
Facebook changes its structure. Google My Business changes its structure. Something happens, right? So we usually take those on. And I got to tell you, the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to anything that has to do with technology, one, they wait too long. Two, they make it more complex than it needs to be.
Yep.
And then three, they just use it for only half of what it could do because they don't understand it or they don't have the brain capacity of doing it. And sometimes hiring a part-time VA that can maybe even work like 10, 15 hours just to be in the system for you so you don't have to do it, to do the little tiny things like the maintenance pieces of it, goes so much more of a longer way than you probably at the end of the year have to invest like anywhere from $5,000 all the way to $15,000 is just to fix this thing to make it go.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and the other thing too is like, if you make these things so complex and you want to make a change, it will depends on if you're doing it for yourself or if you're doing it for somebody else, right? If someone's like building automations for somebody else and they make this big complex thing, the person you're handing it off to needs to understand how the whole thing works and has got to be pretty technically savvy to fix it or troubleshoot it, right? If not, it kind of it's counterproductive, right? So that you're creating all these automations to save them money and save them time, but if something breaks, now they have to hire someone on their team that knows all that stuff to handle it all.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a pretty messed up thing that we kind of figure out. But here's the thing, though. The biggest important thing for anybody watching and everything else, and I just realized we're on Twitch and people are interacting with us on Twitch. I don't even know we're on Twitch. I keep forgetting about it. So the funny thing is that anybody that's starting out in this whole kind of automation game and really trying to, not even automation game, I'll just say just trying to get your business online.
Yeah.
Simplicity is always winning. And again, we learned that through the crazy amounts of things that like all the mistakes that we've had to correct or fix, or even our own. I mean, I'll never forget the day that we sent I'll say me, it wasn't a we. I think I sent
leave me out of this.
I sent like 500 text messages at 2:00 in the morning because like I forgot to put the TM instead of the AM. And I think everybody at one point in time sent an email instead of using customer first name, we used user first name, which everybody that we email went out, hey Nuno. You know,
everyone's done that at least once. You know?
I think it's like an initiation inside of Highlevel, a couple of other softwares that does
right.
But it's kind of funny. Now, Tom, you've gone deep into the world of like sales dashboards, right? Because you found that there's been a pretty massive kind of defect there, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of people just don't even know their sales numbers, right?
They don't, either that or they're guessing. Right. So I had a call with this painting company. Kid's like pretty savvy. I think he's 20, 25, 26 years old, maybe even younger than that. He's running $6 million a year painting company. He's looking to scale into other states and stuff. And he's got several different lead sources coming in. And he's telling me, so we get these cold leads come in and then we're going to qualify them. My office manager, 99% of her job is just calling leads and qualify them over the phone. And pushing them through. He said, recently we're getting tons of leads from Facebook. It's working out really well, but he says my acquisition cost is almost doubled. And then we got into it, and I'm asking him when he's telling me about the office manager calling. I said, well, how many calls is she making? And he says it's anywhere from like 12 to like 15 calls. Oh, and then I'm like, well, how does she manage that? He's like, well, 2 calls on the first day, 2 on the second day, 1 call a day for the next, 10 or 12 days. I said, okay. And how are you tracking that? How do you know every lead's getting followed up with? Well, it's like she filling out a report or something. And he's like, no. I'm like, is that in the system somewhere? She's dialing out of a system. He's like, no. Is there any tracking? He goes, no. I'm like, so you're just guessing that she's calling leads.
That's what she told me.
Right. And a lot of times that's exactly what it is. Or, a perfect example. I got this, he's like a coach, course creator type of person. He came to me, I think he was right around like the 300K a month mark. And he was only using Typeform and Calendly, right? So Typeform, go to Siemens' website, fill out Typeform, qualifying questions. If they qualified, send them a link to Calendly. So I says to him, well, what do you do with all people that qualify that don't book? He's like, nothing. They're not serious.
Hey,
Simple,
Tom,
like, dude, here's $1 million workflow for everybody that's watching this, right? Set this up in Highlevel if you don't have it already. Abandoned calendar workflow, right? So everybody opts in. If they don't book within 5-10 minutes, put them into workflow that follows up and just nudges them to get back on the calendar and book a call. That one workflow in the last 6 months made this kid an extra $900,000.
900 grand, right? So
about $900,000 just in that one workflow.
Tom, do you have your
Simple.
Do you have your mic on your computer also working at the same time as the one on your ears?
No, I am hearing the feedback now all of a sudden.
Oh, see, I didn't hear anything. I never hear anything that goes on to the note.
Yeah, there's feedback. Are you hearing feedback from me when I speak?
It's you.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, every time we've had a mic issue, it's been you.
No, well, I'm hearing it, but I'm hearing it not when I speak. I'm only hearing it, but I don't hear from you, Nuno. That's the reason I said it. So
I didn't hear from you just now. Are you hearing it from me?
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
I'm hearing myself. Yeah, go.
But it doesn't count.
Try changing my mic and then I'll change it back.
Nuno's deaf in one ear, so it doesn't count.
It doesn't really count for me. But going back to like this question, because I want to keep this going because this is actually a pretty hot topic. So so on top of people really not knowing their internal numbers and getting that all kind of doing, you're providing a service now where you're basically taking all these different softwares and you're putting all the information in one big dashboard that they can monitor.
Oh, yeah.
You've had some pretty significant success with this, right? I mean,
yeah. So for this one company, it was my first dashboard I did with him. So it's kind of tricky because there's nothing that directly connects to Highlevel. So what I had to do is, and you can't, a lot of people like to use Google Sheets and then create charts and stuff from that. You can't really do that. There's a couple of platforms that connect directly to Highlevel. I'm not going to mention any names. I've tried them out and I'm not a big fan of them. Actually just canceled it this week. But so what I ended up doing was creating a SQL database, and then there's 3 actions, or I have 3 webhooks that will go from Highlevel into this database and update the database as things change in Highlevel. So whenever a lead is created or updated, they'll get pushed to the database. An appointment status changes, so appointments booked or no show to canceled, and then any changes with opportunities. So it's like three databases. You have a leads database, appointments database, and then opportunities database. And then from there, with the dashboards that I'm using, the platform I'm using, I can pull all that information from essentially from Highlevel and combine that with Facebook data, Google data, TikTok data, and get accurate cost per lead for different platforms. Because I mean, as you know, you probably set up multiple Facebook ad campaigns. You look in your ads manager, your lead count is off, cost per lead's not correct. Like you're generating leads in Highlevel, and it's not always going back into Facebook. But with this, you can take your data from Facebook and what you're spending in the different campaigns and correlate that back to actually what you're getting in the CRM as far as lead conversions. And then from there, I mean, you can do like depending on the type of company the person has, you can set up all different things. So one of the things that we will do is track performance per salesperson. So we'll have a table with all the sales guys on there, how many appointments they have set, how many showed, what their show rate is, what their close rate is, how much cash have they brought in, how many deals have they closed, what's their average cash collected per deal, right? So you can see every time, or what's their average cash per booked call worth. So every time this guy gets a booked call on his calendar, it's worth $1,200.
Wow.
Right. So those are some pretty good metrics to go by. And then so long as if you know what your metrics are on the back end and you're not guessing, because I see a lot of people guessing and it's not very accurate, you can really then start scaling, right? So I mean, if you know on the back end, hey, for every booked call we have on the calendar, we make $1,200, and it's only costing us $30 to get a booked call. Dude, let's spend as much money as we can, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely, yeah.
Now on the flip side, there are some people that try tracking it. Like I got one client right now. He's one of my SaaS clients, and he, for every lead source, and you've seen this, he creates a new pipeline because they want to be able to see the conversion rate on the dashboard. Right? So, on Highlevel, you have that dashboard with the pipeline, and that can get pretty messy pretty quick because I like to get an overall view as well too. So, and with the way I set things up, you can see your metrics per data source, and then you can see your overall metrics, right, from all the different data sources in one. To do that in Highlevel, you have to have multiple pipelines going and get really, really messed up. Things will fall out of sync, and it's happening with this one guy, one of my clients right now. So I have to go in and help him clean that up. But all comes down to when you're setting up an account, having a really solid process laid out, naming convention for your tags, naming convention for your opportunities, and all that kind of stuff, and knowing how all that works. Because if it's not all laid out and tags are all over the place and nothing makes sense, to create dashboards, it's going to be so hard to do that and go back in.
Yeah, that's crazy though, because I mean, like half of the accounts that we get in anything inside a Highlevel, you're usually pretty like very tag heavy or all over the place. Like nothing's named correctly. Even the calendars are completely off. I mean, it's 9 times out of 10, it's the cleanup that takes the most amount of time and just getting it right and centered. So that's interesting to hear. I mean, so again, anybody that's watching it on his YouTube channel, he actually has a pretty popular video. I mean, like 13K views, man.
I don't have a lot of videos, but I've got one video that's made me multiple six figures. Play that.
That's all right, though. I mean, look, like I subscribed, and we have, we have 13K views on just your automated client onboarding. That's when you were doing well. You're still doing it, right? So, I mean, that's when you just like kind of really created a very strong end-to-end onboarding for clients going in. And anybody again listening, I mean, I know this sounds like maybe it's over people's heads, but onboarding, just think of it like this: if a client came to you and had the best possible start they can ever have, the odds of them sticking with you longer increases significantly, like by tenfold. Like for instance, our onboarding process is usually now about an hour. We have some automated things, but obviously we kind of reverted back to doing some things manually with the client because the client sees what we're doing, but it is a process nonetheless. So the onboarding and kind of the coming into the client, if it's done incredibly well, the stickiness of that client tends to generate. Now, Tom, you devised something pretty crazy. It was for any SMMA clients. Which why do people do that? Like what's the significance of it's SMMA?
Social media marketing agency. Yeah.
Oh my God, social media marketing agency. Okay.
Which is a keyword. That's what people search for. So I just put that on my title. Come on, man.
I know. But you had it all automated where it was creating folders, it was doing all these wonderful things and everything else. And it kind of goes. So actually, one of the people here, what is the best way to implement or strategies for naming conventions? So everything from naming. So for instance, we try to keep everything the same. So I'll give you mine, and Tom has a pretty significant one too. So for us, naming conventions, and by the way, the question came up on chat. The naming conventions are for us, we usually start with whatever the title is for the name. So for instance, in one of the ones that we're doing now, the person has 6 different products. The product name, let's say, is like tap. Well, it's a dance school. So let's say it's a tap class. So we'll name it TC. We'll name the funnel TC. And all the automations will be in the TC folder. And then it will be TC01, TC02, TC03. The funnel, the calendar, everything that is associated with that TC or that tap class is going to be all situated. Again, the reason being why we named it this way is because when it comes to tracking what everything is connected, and if you're selling this to a client, the client needs to know where things live. It's very easy for you. Oh, I know where that is. This is for what class? Oh, okay, that's probably TC. And if you're looking for the automation, it's TC01. That's where it starts. And if you're looking for the funnel, it's TC blah, blah, blah. And if you're looking for the calendar, it's this. And because the system's in this system, in any system, things become very convoluted, folders, and I like to put things in the order of the way that they go, right? So for instance, you were talking about an abandoned cart. Abandoned cart to me is always first. If there's a pre-launch sequence, meaning I'm making an announcement somewhere before I launch my course, that's 00. Then it's 01. Then 02 is probably your main purchase. Your 03 is your onboarding. 04 for many OTOs or order bumps. And it keeps going down this 0 path. If you feel like you're going to have like 100 automations, then I start 0001. and then I just keep going in. But again, that TC is their opening reference. The other thing that we've gotten really good at is we have a core set of automations that everybody gets, which is your text messaging compliance stuff now, because now for anybody that is in the text messaging world, the compliance is completely bananas right now. It is really, really hard to do. And if you don't have the proper thing set up, it's kind of screwed up. Email, we're big components on email. We have engagement scores. We have unsubscribe sequences. We have when an email errors out. So all those things are in there just to ensure that people stay compliant. And again, we're setting them up right from the beginning. And again, you just keep going down as you're going through. The important thing is that as you're going to get in Tom, if you ever see Tom's automations, they're wild. They're complex, really good at what he does, but they're complex. But there is an order to an operation to them, right? And I think you also have a naming convention that's very similar.
Yeah, something similar to what you were doing. But even more basic stuff like leads, right? Every lead gets tagged lead space dash space master, right? So that's my master lead tag. And then if it's a Facebook lead, you'll have one workflow that tags all your source leads. So it's like one workflow comes in, and then whenever you're adding a new source, you just add that as a trigger, have an if condition, and then add the tag lead space dash space Google or dash Facebook or TikTok or YouTube, whatever, however you want to do it. That way, you can run reports later on if you're dumping the data out and filter by your tags and know where things are coming from. So that's one thing. Other things like people may have, depending on their sales process, they may do like 1 or 2 calls, like a triage call or a demo call. Like, what do I call mine? Like a let's say it's a triage call. You can do triage call dash confirmed dash triage call dash showed dash no showed dash canceled, what have you. Same thing with demo call. Just things of that sort. That way they're just organized, not just showed or no showed, or they're just random words people use for tags. But even like taking a step further, you can combine that with the type of product they're doing too, and use your little abbreviations in there. But the point is not like. The point is, maybe take a document and write out what your tags are, what your name convention is, and then use that. Teach your team how to use that. So as you guys build, you have a framework to go off of.
Yeah, and I mean, Andy, you're the one that kind of went on that on your programmer's days, right? You guys used to all work on one naming convention, right? And it was shared to the entire group when you were in a programmer, right?
Yeah, when we worked on stuff there, because our teams were dispersed throughout the country, and when I worked at AOL, it was mainly based on numbers and then initials. That's what I brought to you when we first came into the business, because we used to just use names, and I think we were even we got a snapshot that was using emojis once, and we wanted to kill ourselves. I remember that distinctly.
It had emojis for everything. It was hysterical. Everything had an emoji.
Dude. All right, hold on. Let's go.
Like a Toy Story. Was that yours?
No. I came across it with somebody's account. They had emojis on their workflows, their funnels, their tags had emojis on it. It was driving me nuts. Like, how are you supposed to search for something with like, oh, what was that emoji we used for that?
Was it a cat?
Come on. Like, I guess like people's brains work differently in different ways, and hey, if that was the way that made sense to them, power to you. But to take that and then have other people come in and be able to recognize what that emoji means, not a good practice.
It's a cat. You don't know the cat emoji? Go ahead, Andy. You were saying for.
So no, it's just so when we're doing, can you? Oh, I had myself on mute, and I just unmuted myself, and just want to make sure I heard was speaking correctly. A lot of this stuff can get very confusing because you have to make sure that you work in the right business, and every shop back in the day had their own naming conventions. So what we started doing is, and we do it a little differently because we have per client, but because there were so many clients, our naming conventions would be company title, then numerical underneath that, and then the numerical was based on the project, and then after the project would have the different folders that then would go in that. we didn't really do automations. We were doing designs. Everything had to have an asset. Everything had to have backup files and so forth like that. So with you guys, it's a little different. You need to find it very quickly to get in there. This was a lot of legacy stuff that was always very confusing.
Yeah, like again, well, and the most important thing is just to keep it simple. Like you heard Tom say it, you're hearing me say it. Keeping it simple by far is the best thing you can do whenever you're doing any of this, because the problem is like we see a lot. Look, there's a lot of really smart people out there, and they want to design these other things. The other thing, but the problem is you make it too smart. I mean, I was making fun of you this weekend, Tom. Like when you were showing me something, like, come on, man, just like you got to double
right.
Because the client's got to figure it out. If the client can't figure it out, then you're going to struggle. And
so,
I mean,
I find when you guys give me an automation, since I'm more on the design side and you're more on the automation, when you have an automation where you title it with exactly what it is, oh my God, is that I mean, literally, and not having to figure out somebody else's hieroglyphics or whatever and so like that. It's amazing when it says purchase product. Oh, that must be where people purchase the product.
Yeah.
Or when people have initials and so forth like that, they're basically saying, we never want you to do anything on your own. Please don't break it.
Yeah. The other thing too is the webhooks. What kills me is when people add webhooks and they don't name the action, what the webhook name is in Zapier, like what that automation is. Some of the accounts I go into will have like 400 different zaps, and then I'm supposed to figure out where's this webhook linked to in Zapier.
Yeah, I mean, like, but
with their live chat support, I'm like, hey, can you tell me what zap this webhook belongs to? So it's simple, like as far as naming conventions, name all your webhooks, what the actual names are in Zapier.
Well, name everything in general. Like if you're planning on doing any kind of automations, you're planning on doing any kind of funnels, name everything. Name everything the way you need to. But long story short, because we're starting to get it to the final minutes of this fantastic show that only our moms watch. But like apparently we had some one question. Hey, that's like amazing. So long story short of it, there's a couple takeaways from here today. One is don't use any other software if you want to save money unless you're using Highlevel. That's number one. Anybody needs sales dashboards or you want to venture into that space, Thomas here is probably one of the best that I've seen. I throw that compliment, unlikely. And also another automations person who's done a lot of setups and onboardings just like we do. And then on top of it, if you're out there and you are building and you are a client trying to figure out how to do all this, naming things, making things overly simplistic, don't make them very too large. Don't make the complications and automations more necessary than you just don't need a lot to make things go. And again, Thomas has said one automation made a guy $900,000. I don't know about any of you, but if I had one automation that made me $900,000,
and I think that one maybe had like 4 or 5 action steps in it. Wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah, it really honestly wasn't. I mean, and we moved people from like systems like Keep and Kajabi over to Highlevel, and they've seen 30 to 40% increase, not only in productivity, but sometimes even in sales to a pretty extraordinary amount. And again, I think one of the other big things that hopefully you guys are taking away is don't spend money buying lists and all this other stuff unless you're planning on doing a cold email process out there. And it's super important that everybody understands that, because the problem that most people are doing is they're buying kind of the hype. The cold email, even if you bought a cold email list and you're doing it, the average conversion of a cold email is like 1 to 2% in what you're doing. So just be very mindful of like how all this works, because that's what's going to get you a little bit later on. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to have Tom on probably a couple of times around here. Maybe next time you could show us one of your dashboards. I know people would probably love to see that and kind of what you designed. And then that's it. So folks, we'll see you on the next call. And thanks everybody for coming on by, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.